See how that works. Folks, if you didn't think that Ron Gallagher was not going, if you didn't think he's going to make it, you are mistaken. He is very much here. Ron, thanks for joining us tonight, and sorry about the miscommunication. However complicit I was in that. We have to observe our time. We are at 8. We're at 8 minutes. We have 12 left. So, let me try to brief in case you weren't here last time. Ron shared about encountering an individual early in his working life. I think you said you were like in your 20s, and this person exhibited such an optimism and a joy, and you were pursuing kind of a worldly lifestyle at the time, and finally it got to the point where your friend was being harassed by somebody at work, and you had to stand up for him because he didn't seem to be bothered by it. But at the end of the day, you went to your friend and said, whatever it is, or you went to God and said, whatever it is that guy's got, I want some of it. And it obviously changed your life. So that's kind of where we left off, but that was a very, very long time ago. What have you and God been doing since that encounter?
Well, one or two things, and I apologize for the delay tonight. I've not been more embarrassed since the last time I put my pants on backwards, and it's terrible to be in a spot where you misconstrue things. But after we parted company, my friend and I, we went in different directions, and I was this new thing. I mean, this Christianity's good night. It's just everything was different, and all that kind of thing. And I was excited. I figured that everybody ought to have some. I didn't know where to go to church, so I just I didn't think about that a lot. And I was voracious reader of the Bible because everything I knew that he had talked about was in that book. And I remember from being younger as a kid and listening to my grandfather read out of the Bible, the only thing he ever read out loud. And it was compelling to me. And so I got a Bible and I started reading it. And the only Bible I knew anything about was King James Version, which suited me actually because I was a little weird kid in English when I was in high school. I liked Shakespeare, and I'm not the guy, but I just liked the sound of that stuff. You know, it's weird. You know, and so I got coerced into being in a play. Actually, my English teacher got wind from somebody that I liked Shakespeare, and that was weird. So anyway, we got that. Reading King James was like, okay, I like this stuff, and I read it and I read it and read it, and so I didn't know what to do. And after a while, I had gotten kind of frustrated. It's this little church in town that I used to go to with my cousin occasionally, and my friend and I weren't still riding together at that point. We both left, got offers for other jobs, and took them. And so I go to church, and I got frustrated because I didn't hear very much about that it came out of the Bible. They just talk about random stuff, and so I got frustrated one morning after. I guess it was afternoon, after listening to some of that stuff, and I thought, gosh, they're missing the point. And I just had this compelling thing. I wanted to talk to people about it, and I didn't know who to talk to. So I had a friend who worked at the jail. So I called him up and said, how about I come down and talk to some of the people in the jail? And he said, yeah, that'd be cool. And so I came on down, and I thought, well, they're behind bars. They can't get at me, you know. So I just
they wanted to get away from you.
And I got kind of a, I guess, pattern, reputation, or whatever about this thing about Jesus Christ and what he could do for people. And guy called me up one evening after I got off work. I was going home, and I was frustrated and talking to God because I didn't have any instruction about prayer, and so I'm just talking to God. You know, that's just And I told him, I said, God, I'm getting irritated with you. And I said, because I got this sense I need to do something. I got no idea what to do. And so you need to figure out what it is I'm supposed to do, because I don't know. And I figure the ball's in your court. So unless you can figure it out and let me know, I ain't doing nothing. And so I went home, and literally within an hour or two, phone rang, and this guy I went to school with said, "Hey, Ron, I heard you got saved." And I said, "Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal, isn't it? Isn't it great?" And I said, "Have you got some?" He said, "Yeah, I've been a Christian for years." And I said, "Well, I never knew that," which I shouldn't have said, I guess. Anyway, he said, a little country church. He said, "We don't have a preacher right now, so why don't you come out Sunday morning and share your testimony and talk to us about Jesus?" And I said, "Well, I kind of to myself, I said, well, God, you didn't waste any time, did you?" Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where it started. I went out Sunday morning after being awake almost all of Saturday night, bugging God, because I told him, I said, "God, them people are going to expect to hear something from you, and if you don't show up, we're going to be embarrassed." And so I went out and I shared my testimony with them, and it was interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. So they called Sunday afternoon, about mid-afternoon, and they said, "Hey, how about coming back and speaking to us on Sunday night?" And I said, "I told y'all everything I knew Sunday morning." And so they said, "No, we really want you to come back," and so I did. And then the following week they called me about, I guess it was Wednesday. They said, "Hey, we've been talking. We think you ought to come back Sunday morning." And the angel probably wept. And I said, "Well, I was afraid not to go, Coach, because I thought, I've been bugging God about doing stuff, and he's throwing this thing, man." And I thought, good night. If I don't go, he's going. No telling what God will do to me. And so I went, and good night. They tried to offer me money, and that made me mad, because I thought if I took money for it, God wouldn't let me do it anymore. And so I said, "No, that's okay. We got enough to get by." So, but anyway, they kept that same pattern going for a while, and they come about Wednesday or Thursday and say, "Won't you come back?" And then they call me again Sunday afternoon, "Want me to come back?" and all that. Then they sent a delegation to the house and said, "We've been talking. We'd like for you to pastor our church." And I'm like, good night. These people. And I said, the angels are probably weeping up in heaven somewhere because of all it. And again, I was kind of scared not to. So I said, "I'll do the best I can," and knew nothing about what I was doing. And I was reading everything I could find. We didn't have online stuff back in those days. There was a branch of some institution that was doing some Bible classes in Richmond, so I'd go over there and get what I could get. And so we did that. Things began to happen. People got saved, and the church grew. And that's back when the bus ministries were going wild. So I figured that God must want us to do that. So we bought a bus, and actually one of Jerry Falwell's pilots was going to Canada, where they had this big lot where they brought used buses. So I flew up to Canada with one of Jerry Falwell's guys, got a bus, and drove it back down through here. And what an adventure that was. I had this, God bless him, knucklehead dude that went with me, had a little enough sense. And we got lost in Canada, and we were trying to find a place that we had 62 passenger old school buses. And we got stuck in a place driving through this woman's yard. She's running around yelling and screaming and probably practicing every cuss word she ever knew and all that. And I didn't feel compelled to get out and tell her we were doing the Lord's work there in the yard. But anyway, I got back, and things were doing fairly well. I didn't know. I thought, well, everything was my job to do. So I was preaching 3 services a week, and driving the bus, and getting up, helping making sandwiches for the kids that got on the bus. And I had a 30-minute radio broadcast, and still working full time. So almost like your kind of lifestyle, Coach, I think. And I was sleeping about 4 hours a night if I was lucky. And so I finally announced. I said, "Well, I think God wants me to be They didn't have a full-time pastor before that, and I got to the point where somebody explained to me it was okay to take some money, so I was getting paid $35 a week, and I thought that was okay, and I tried to be careful to use it all for ministry stuff. But anyway, one thing led to another, and Jerry Falwell started the school, so I started with the Bible Institute, and I might mention that that Jerry offered at one point for all the Bible Institute students to transfer to the college, and so a friend of mine said, "Well, let's do that, Gallagher." And I said, "Well, I was the first kid in my family to graduate from high school, and we're not college people." I said, "I'm liable to flunk out of this institute." And he explained it would be a whole lot more impressive to flunk out of a college than an institute. So
there you go. 2-minute warning.
Okay.
2-minute
anyway,
warning.
I've been writing all my life, and one thing led to the other. And for years, I did a couple of free degrees after that. And I did ministry work. I did counseling work. I did social work. I was always compelled with people and what they did with their lives. And so much of that was outside of church, Coach. I love church. But if we don't take the gospel outside the walls of the church and get involved with people where they live, and what's really going on in their lives, then we're not going to make that powerful connection. I don't know that I could have been more powerfully drawn to Jesus, listening to the best evangelist in the world inside a church, as I was to that guy who loved me enough. And it hit me one day that he was the only person on this planet who cared enough about me to pray for me every day. And I think that was a powerful difference. And so with all of the things that have unfolded in my life, that's the one thing that has stuck with me. It's got to be outside the walls. If it's just inside the walls and on the pews and on the platform, we're missing it. And so my favorite thing is to meet new people. And I have the secret plan about how to do that. I stick my hand out and I say, "Hey, my name is Ron. What's yours?" And we start a conversation.
Now, they're not going to read your books if you give away all your secrets here.
That's my soul-winning thing. But you meet people, and they're fascinating. The one thing that God was so compelled to save in this whole planet was not the trees and the birds and all that stuff. It's the people, and we've got to contact them, Coach. That's my whole thing. I write. That's one way to do it, but it's got to be personal.
Wow. Ron, I can assure you, I'll send you a link by email afterwards. You've got to come to our chat room and scroll back and see all that's been said as you were talking. You are a quite captivating personality, and we're blessed to have you. Ron, your enthusiasm and your zeal for the Lord is outstanding. Your love for Him and your message, you're right on track. We're really blessed to have you here. Sorry we didn't get off on time, but you know what? It was worth waiting for, and I could you're like the old granddad type. I could just listen to you all night.
I am so apologetic. I wish I could apologize personally to everybody for being late.
You're okay.
When you said it was covered, I thought, "Oh God, what has got somebody else?"
Yeah, you're covering it. Yeah. You got it.
I'm sorry. I hope I'll do a better job next time.
We're in good shape. Don't worry about it, Ron. We enjoyed having you. Hopefully we'll do this again sometime. Love you, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Good night. All right, folks. There it was. The follow-up, the part 2 of the story. Ron Gallagher. I hope you'll go to his website, gallagherspen.com. And as you know, we've got to quickly, or I've got to. You don't have to do anything. You just sit there and enjoy, okay? We are going to dismantle this studio and rebuild it for Michelle Medlock Adams, who is coming our way very soon. But while we're waiting on her, I'd like you to think about a couple questions. Number 1, what's the boldest thing you've ever done for Christ? Number 2, when was that? And the challenge for all of us is never to be satisfied with either answer.